Hi, my name is Jacob Rossing and I'm a partner at the advertising agency Manipulation. I'm going to do a small talk about social media strategy. First question, and we always, when we talk to clients about social media strategy, we always get two questions. First one is, should our company be on social media? And secondly, if so, what can we expect from it? And these are two vital questions because there's no reason just to be in social media, just to be there. Because then it's just going to take up a lot of resources and a lot of money. So whenever we do a plan for social media, we need to be able to answer these two questions. When planning for social media, this is the dream scenario, that we create a very big viral effect from the marketing activities we're doing. But when we're discussing with our clients, we also see that they're having actually also the dream scenario, but they also have the not so perfect scenario. And that is where they suddenly will be attacked by an angry mob, coming up with a lot of comments about their behavior, about the product services and stuff like that. So this is actually also something you need to consider. What are the chances that we will face an angry mob rather than our dream scenario? But before that, we need to go into say, is social media relevant for our company? And to do so, we need to look at three things. First of all, we need to make sure that is social media actually more effective than the traditional media that we are already using? Because there's no need to go into social media if we can reach our objective by using traditional medias. Secondly, sometimes we also face situations where there's some limitation on the traditional media, where we cannot use the traditional media to reach our objectives, where we need to go out and have a dialogue with our target audience or our customers. And thirdly, of course, and that is why probably a lot of people are talking about social media, is that a lot of our customers are already spending a lot of time on social media, and time consumed on social media is greatly growing all over the world. So that's why it is interesting, but if we need to look into these three parameters before we can say yes or no to social media at all. So when we are planning, we need to do this as any other plan we're doing. We need to look at a pre-launch phase, launch phase, and of course, of sustaining growth in order to make this successful. A lot of the customers we're talking with are only focusing on the launch phase, simply because they think we need to do it and we need to make sure that we got up and running, because then the CEO or the board is satisfied. But then you will see a sudden growth, and if you don't prepare for the sustaining growth phases, you will see a decline of people who will be interested in following you if it's on Facebook, or continue to be in a dialogue with you. Developing a social media strategy, you need to consider several items or several points before making the actual plans. And the list I have here shows what some of the items you need to consider. And going from the risk profile of your company, the purpose, why should we do it, what kind of resources do we need, and so forth. And obvious, your company is different than everybody else, so you need to look into what is specific, interesting, or relevant for your company to consider. And you need to ask yourself this question, is our business suitable for social media? Meaning that some industries are more likely to gain something from using social media than others. If, for instance, you are a lender of short-term loans, you have probably a less likelihood for being on social media than if you're selling toys for babies. Simply that customers using your product, short-term loans, is probably not so keen on showing that they are actually customers with your company. Whereas when you're talking about toys for kids, people likes to go out and share this with their friends. So that's the first point. Second point you need to consider is how does your customers actually view you today? Are they very favorable towards you, or do you have a lot of people who really maybe are being a customer with you, but they don't really love you? That will also reflect a lot on how people will react to you if you go on social media. Starbucks will have one profiling customers. If you're a utility company, you probably will have another profile company. And you need to make that assessment. And of course, thirdly, and that's sometimes you need to ask yourself this critical question is, do we really want people to talk to us or to their friends about our company and our products right now? Because sometimes if you have a critical issue with your customer service or you have a critical issue with one of your products, you don't want a lot of the dialogue going on. Maybe then it's better to wait a little while and then go on to the social media later on. So if you go into the purpose, why should we be there? There could be a lot of different reasons for going on social media or using social media. That could go from we want to sell more. Of course, everybody wants to sell more, but we can also use social media to sell. It can be simply we want to have a stronger relationship with our customers, that is, increase our branding. Or it can be enhancing the support that we're already giving our customers. Customer support is often seen on Facebook. It can also just be simply be a place for executing campaigns, marketing campaigns. And if you have if you're on Facebook, for instance, and you have a lot of followers on Facebook, then suddenly you can have a very great place, a platform for executing new campaigns where you don't need to spend a lot of resources on buying media. Or it could be simply finding the brand ambassadors and make sure that they will start talking about your brands and then share your brands, getting this viral effect again. Of course, the success criteria is very much reflected from what kind of the purpose we are here for. But one thing we think is very important is that it must be measurable why we should be there. That could be either should we measure on how many likes we have, should we measure on how many people would use our customer service on Facebook compared to the telephone or the internet or whatever. It needs to be measurable, because otherwise it will be very hard for us to determine whether or not our social media strategy is actually working or not. And not the least, if we don't measure, then suddenly everything can be, it's about fun and it can be about creativity, making funny new campaigns or ideas, and then suddenly you have the creative monsters taking over. Then, of course, a lot of is talking about this ROI, or return on investment measurement. That can be probably a little bit, it's probably not so easy to do so on Facebook activities or social media activities compared to a TV campaign or whatever. But at least we must see a positive direction in our measurements if we are to use social media. Because otherwise it's simply, again, just draining our resources and draining our marketing spend. Onphone is a Danish mobile phone company. They're using Facebook as part of their customer service. Maersk Drilling is an international company who's actually using it for recruitment, global recruitment. And of course you can do direct selling as well on Facebook or social media in general. So again, you can have a vast reason for being on social media. You need to make sure you know exactly why you're there, because otherwise we can't measure on it. Planning for a social media strategy, you also need to consider what is the synergy with other media. Simply because, of course, social media is not the only media you have on your marketing plan. You need to make sure that you get this interaction between them. I will just give you an example on how we're working with Sony. Whereas we have, for instance, we could have mega banners on the internet that could either lead to, it could be either leading to their own web page, Sony, or it could lead to their Facebook. And that is simply because, do we want people to find product information or customer service, or do we want people to interact with our campaigns? And then we're going to lead the traffic in the right direction, depending on what they want to do. One of the objections we're having from a lot of customers talking about social media, that is that how much time are we going to spend to have, for instance, a fan page of Facebook. And this picture could illustrate it, that they're saying could be interesting, but there's going to be so much work on it. But in reality, you should go in and define what are the expected needs we need to have, what are the expected resources we need to use. So, from either what is the impact actually on the organization, and that could be either big or it could be small. But we need to remember one thing, and that is social media needs continuous monitoring. We can't just say now we have a social media and then we can leave it there, or activities on social media, and then we will check up upon it the next day. We need to continuously check up upon it to make sure that we don't have any bad stories going on. Secondly, what is the expected level of activities? That is also how often will we do different campaigns, how often will we do different things on our social media. That is also a part of then what do we expect the amount of hours we're going to spend on it. And there you can go out and see what are other comparable companies actually doing and how much activities do they have on their social media activities. This could give you an indication of the resources needed. And then thirdly, of course, you need to consider should the whole social gardening, should that be handled internally or externally? Because it might be that we just need to have 3 or 4 minutes every hour to look on, for instance, on Facebook to see has there come any critical comments coming up. But they need to be there every hour. It can't be that this guy or girl is suddenly is leaving for a meeting or is sick one day, and then you can't check one day, and then suddenly all hell is loose on the internet. You need to have a continuous monitoring of what's going on. Then this is actually where a lot of fun is coming up. Why or what kind of creative hooks should we use in our social activities or social media activities? This is what we're looking for. If you're on Facebook, you want people to like you. So they will follow you and you can start posting things and you can start interaction and going into dialogue with them. But you need to ask yourself a question. Why should people like you? And then you can see here, if you take these two companies, you have Fiat cars in Denmark, and you have Tuborg beer, which is a special Christmas beer. Fiat can only, but they have 2,000 followers. Tuborg has 57,000 followers. And that is simply because people like to be part of campaigns that are big, and they can see a lot of other people are there. So you need to find out why should people like you. So what do? We need to create interest in order for us to get attention. And interest demands that we consider relevant, because otherwise, again, then the customers will not like us. So the trick is to have relevant messages at the right moment. Then how do we do that? This requires that we understand our customers thoroughly. We know what their interests are and what they would like to follow us on. Can we find some kind of common ground between them and us? In return, if we do so, we can get a high level of engagement, because people suddenly say, yes, these guys really understand me, and I think what they bring to me is relevant. And if we do it right, we can suddenly be part of this reference frame that they're using towards their customers or their friends, saying, hey, I'm going with Nike because of this, or I'm using Adidas because of this. Suddenly that brand is part of their personalities. And this is some of the things we need to look for. Finally, you should look also upon what is actually the competitor's behavior. And it's actually not a big thing. You can simply just go down and up and look how many likes do they have if they're Facebook. Are they on other social medias where you say this is relevant, could be or couldn't be relevant for us? Because then you will see what is actually happening in your category before entering. And also you will get probably a good view on what are the potentials for us here. Is it big or is it small? And that will also give you an idea of how many resources you should spend. Or it could also be that you will see they are not there, or what they're doing here is so badly that we could do it much better, and we have a possibility for a great return on investment on here. So in principle, what we should do here is the same positioning exercise that we're using on traditional media. We should also do this on social media. So in summary, what is social media? Social media should, of course, could be a part of the overall marketing strategy. But you need to determine what is the role, and you need to find out how do you approach it. We need to describe the social media strategy short and precise. It should not be a long document, but it should be short and precise. And then, of course, be realistic, but do not be afraid, because there's a lot of great possibilities out there. Thank you very much.